joined by two very talented and accomplished presenters, and that is John Hopkins, and who is the Chief Business Development Officer at U-Turn, and Monica Newton, who is the CEO of the National Arts Festival. Before we continue, though, I'm just going to advise to all the participants, your microphones have been muted, and that is just so that we have give the presenters a seamless opportunity to present undisturbed. However, we encourage you to, if you have any questions, to post that in the chat. And there's a team of people in the background, both the presenters and the Jobs Fund team, who are very happy to answer your questions. I know that sometimes when you're in these fora, you have a question and you kind of get stuck on that question and you lose concentration. So we don't want you to get stuck. We want you to be fully present and we want you to be involved. And so post your questions during the session and we will try our very best to answer your questions. But there will also be a time and an opportunity for when we will unmic you and then you can have your voice in the room as well. Okay. In terms of the presentations, we will post the presentations on our website, and my team here will provide the link also in the chat towards the end of the presentations. Yeah, so that's another thing that worries people. Will we see the presentation? Yes, you will see the presentation. Okay, so then let's get started. This session is not just a showcase of two remarkable projects that have been supported by the Jobs Fund Festival and U-Turn, but it is a powerful reminder of the transformative potential that lies in sectors that we often overlook or undervalue. We all know the challenges that face youth in South Africa. We know the issues around unemployment. We know the issues around exclusion. And in some cases, yes, homelessness. But they also represent our greatest opportunity. And today we shine a light on two innovative pathways that are not only creating jobs, but restoring dignity, building enterprise, and reshaping communities. The creative sector, often seen as a niche or informal, is in fact a major contributor to our economy. It employs over 1 million people and drives growth through festivals, music, design, and digital content. The Festival Enterprise Catalyst is a bold initiative that leverages this sector to create sustainable employment, supporting new works, touring productions, and technical training. It's a model of how culture and commerce can intersect to unlock and leverage the sector to create sustainable employment. On the other end of the spectrum, we have the U-Turn program, which works with homeless and vulnerable youth, those furthest from opportunity. Through accredited training and reintegration support, U-Turn is not just creating jobs, it is rebuilding lives. It reminds us that employment facilitation must be inclusive, compassionate, and responsive to the realities of those we serve. Both projects reflect the Jobs Fund's commitment to demand-led, high-impact interventions. They show us that when we invest in people, especially young people, we don't just create jobs. We create hope, we create change. So thank you very much for joining us. I look forward to the insights, the stories, and the dialogue that will emerge today. I'm going to hand you over to Lionel, who is your facilitator. Enjoy and don't forget to post your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Najwa, for that warm welcome. And thanks to everybody who's managed to make it to here to our webinar called Hustle Meets Hope. It's a special feeling To us, gathered here, united by a shared mission of tackling unemployment through bold, purpose-driven initiatives. Today, we are going to see two of our projects that are currently in implementation. Can we move to the slide of... Now, as we engage with the slide to introduce Jobs Fund, you will see that Jobs Fund is more than just a flavor of the moment. It's a bold invitation to innovate. This was established by our government. This fund was born to spark fresh ideas and co-fund programs that break down walls keeping people out of job market. Have you ever thought on what if we could tackle unemployment not only with one-size-fits-all solution, but by challenging innovators to find new paths? That's exactly why Jobs Fund operates on challenge fund principles. We leverage competition, creativity to grant resources where they can have the deepest impact. Notice the next point. This is not just the mass employment scheme, but it complements existing government initiatives by focusing on sustainable high-impact projects. We're not simply counting jobs for the sake of numbers. We nurture initiatives that stand on their own 2 feet after the grant money has run its course. What makes this possible? One of the factors is the partnerships. Partnering with some of you who are present here and others who are not here. We work with intermediaries, e.g. experienced NGOs, social enterprises, industry associations, and those willing for profits entities who already have boots on the ground and trusted networks. We do this by tapping into their expertise. We zero in into the communities and individuals who need support the most. Now let us talk about learning. From day one, knowledge sharing has been a foundation pillar in the Jobs Fund. Every grant comes with a rigorous framework for monitoring, evaluation, reporting, and learning. But why, you may ask? Because real impact is not measured only in jobs created today, but lessons that inform tomorrow's projects. That's why Jobs Fund doesn't operate behind closed doors. We host and joint knowledge exchange sessions with our partners and with you, our broader ecosystem stakeholders, so that every success and every lesson that has been learned from a setback can ripple out and inspire the next wave of innovation. In short, we are a living laboratory for tackling unemployment. This is where vision meets bold ideas, trusted partners, and a commitment to continuous learning. Together, we are rewriting playbook on how South Africa should create meaningful, sustainable jobs. Now, we are going to move to the first part of the presentation. We will begin with our homeless project that is implemented by U10 that demonstrates how targeted job training and supportive outreach can transform lives on the streets of South Africa. By collaborating with shelters, vocational trainers, and willing employers, this effort has opened doors for individuals experiencing homelessness. It equips them with skills and confidence and stable income. Today, U10 is represented by John Hopkins. John Hopkins is a Chief Business Development Officer at U10. where he's responsible for all U10 social enterprises, research and growth into new areas. John has published research on homelessness, including in the International Journal on Homelessness. He was also the author of The Cost of Homelessness in Cape Town study. In 2023, he completed his MBA from Stellenbosch Business School before moving to South Africa in 2016. He has spent a decade working in the field of HIV, sexual and reproductive health, and gender for international nonprofit and the United Nations. John is blessed as he has 3 children with his lovely wife. Let us all welcome John by giving him thumbs up and hearts. Welcome, John. Over to you.
Thank you, Lionel. And I think the one thing I didn't put in my bio is I'm not named after University Johns Hopkins that was made famous with COVID. My parents didn't realize that existed. But anyway, get out of the way. So how do you create an effective work readiness program for people experiencing homelessness? So that's what I'm going to talk about over the next few minutes. And first of all, I'm going to unpack homelessness in South Africa, introduce U-Turn. We're going to hear a couple of testimonies. And then look at some principles for an effective work program with homeless youth, for if you were interested in trying to implement something like this, asking, is this cost effective? And then look at some future plans for U-Turn. So next slide. What causes homelessness? Okay, if you click on. Now, homelessness, yes, if you're unable to earn an income, it can lead to homelessness, but 32.9% of the population are unemployed at the moment. So the latest Stats SA figure, last quarter, that doesn't mean that there are that many homeless people. It's when you combine you're unable to earn an income and a poor support network, that's what leads to homelessness. What's a support network? It's broken relationships with family, with friends, haven't got any savings, etc. What leads to a poor support network and unable to earn an income? It could be psychological development issues, poor self-esteem, poor emotional control. It could be pathological issues. It could be mental ill health or poor physical health, and also substance addiction. And final click on. And that's tied into the broken society, high unemployment, insufficient housing, unaffordable housing, and also broken families. That all ties in together to lead to homelessness. So it's complex. Next slide. Now, the census in 2022 did a count of homeless people across South Africa as a one-night count. And they found 55,719 people on the night. The age was about equal, sort of about 40% were between 15 and 34, and about the same between 35 and 59. And most of the reasons they gave, the people they spoke to on the night, the reason for homelessness was an economic reason, but also concerning family relationships, that's your support network, also substance abuse, which ties in clearly. Next slide. Now, as a 2020 study that we did in Cape Town, now from that, we actually estimate there's probably more like 14,000 people on the street in Cape Town alone. And the census count kind of aligns with that in terms of the people we asked the next day, were you counted? About 1 in 3 were. They earn on average about $4 a day, so it's 78 Rand. And that is mainly given by compassionate residents from begging or car guarding. They've been on the street for more than 8 years, and 50% were seen as chronic homeless. 63% said they have a substance use disorder. Now, for some, it's a cause of homelessness. For some, it's just a survival mechanism of being on the street. And the vast majority said, but I don't want to be on the street. And we're talking about 95% here. They said, but I don't have the support I need to get off and to stay off the street. Next slide. As part of that study, we then, as Lana mentioned in the introduction, we tried to estimate what's the cost of homelessness in Cape Town. What is the cost of the status quo of doing what we're doing? Now, doing what we're doing isn't really working because someone's landing on the street for over 8.5 years. And we found that actually compassionate giving, well, that was 39% of the total, and it's about 290 million Rand a year is given compassionately by residents in Cape Town. Reactive punitive, there was a high level of incarceration, and that's very expensive, often for petty crimes and for drug possession. That was 45% of the total. And just developmental services was only 16%. That's all the shelters, all the soup kitchens, anything that's going to help a person in their situation and help them to leave the streets. So per person, it's about 51,000 Rand per year. It's costing society, not just government, but society. And per instance of homelessness, we're looking at nearly R500,000 Rand per person just for someone being on the street for the current status quo. I'm going to come back to this. Next slide. So U-turn. U-turn, we exist to equip people with skills to overcome homelessness. Next slide. And we do this, and our goal is to have an effective life change pathway that's accessible to every homeless person in South Africa. It's our 25-year goal. We're currently in Cape Town, we're in Johannesburg, we recently opened in Pretoria, and we have plans to open elsewhere in the coming years. But how do you have an effective pathway that's accessible to every homeless person? So if someone wants to leave the streets, they actually have a process to do so. It's not necessarily U-turn doing it, but it's creating the system in order to enable that to happen. So what's the U-turn process? Next slide. The U-turn process is, next slide, please. The U-turn process is a journey, and it's looking at 4 phases. Oh, that's one slide too many. One slide back. It's looking at 4 phases. There is building readiness for change. There is rehabilitation, so the overcoming substance addiction. There is a long work readiness program, and then there's around independence and helping someone once they're in the open labour market to remain sober, employed, and independent. Now, building readiness for change, this is people on the street. It's providing the basic needs services they need. The My Change voucher is very much part of that. So it's a voucher that people can be given, directs them to a centre. They access services, but they can also work and earn vouchers for those basic needs. Building readiness for change to then get into a shelter, to get into a rehab program. And the most important part of our program is around work readiness. It's about creating that sustainability and that long-term employability. Next slide. So the sustainability and long-term employability is really, we use social enterprise. Now, the way we do social enterprise slightly different to normal is that it's not just, we have a number of charity shops, we have an Indigenous garden centre, we have a coffee shop, and now some more coffee shops, and we have a software consulting business. But in each of the businesses, it's primarily staffed by people on the work program. It's not staffed by people, just by external people or volunteers. It's a space where people can learn employability skills, can access, and it tries to be as open labour market as possible. And 4 days a week, someone is working for a stipend, for an income, minimum wage income. And then 1 day a week, they're getting training, therapy, support. There's counsellors, occupational therapists, there's recovery groups, and all of that helps to cement a person help a person deal with the past, but then also work forwards and kind of build the resilience that's needed for the open labour market. And they learn that, they apply in the workspace, they go back and learn, apply, as long as that person needs in order to get into employment and remain in employment. Next slide. So we have a chain of 20 thrift stores, so charity shops. This slide's actually already out of date. We've opened 3 in the last month, and we are selling new and pre-loved clothing. There's shoes, there's household furniture, and goods donated by members of the public, but also some large retail chains give their end-of-line stock that they were actually just dumping before. So there's a good sustainability element here. And we've got shops in Cape Town and also in Johannesburg. Next slide. Then we have an Indigenous garden nursery, and this was actually set up thanks to Jobs Fund Innovation Fund grant from 2022. And this provides indigenous plants, and by indigenous I mean we have one of the 7 floral kingdoms of the world, the Cape Floral Kingdom in the Western Cape. It's fynbos, and it's the largest nursery selling fynbos in the Western Cape, and probably therefore the world. And it doesn't sell exotics. It's found a gap in the market that actually is then being exploited. And there's so much demand, and that's great. So it's not doing vegetable gardens. It's actually looking at something different. But it's green fingers. It's about restoring lives and landscapes. So it's the sustainability piece, but also the people on the program who are then learning and doing some garden services, also doing some propagation and et cetera, et cetera. So next slide, we're going to hear from Alex. I've just seen, before we hear from Alex, on the Sitimbiso has put in the chat about the online store. With retail, we've just opened, and that's one of the new stores, a brand new online shop. It's the first charity shop in South Africa, thrift store, that's actually opened an online store setting. And that is actually a, if you look at homeless.org.za/shop, or if you look up U-Turn Charity Shop online, there's an online store. And don't worry if you don't live in Cape Town or the Western Cape, it delivers across South Africa. Not the furniture, that's a bit big and be too expensive, but the clothing items. So do have a look at that. So we're going to hear from Alex, and there's a short video that's coming up. He's going to tell a little bit of his journey. QVT.
Hi, my name is Alex. A couple of years ago, I lost my job. Life started slipping. I was homeless. It felt like I was falling deeper and deeper into a dark hole. And at some point, I just didn't know how to climb out of that dark hole. One day my family stepped in and they saw that I wasn't okay. They saw that I needed help. They knew this because they knew how I was, or the person I was in the past. And they helped me get into a rehab eventually after years of suffering, and watching me go deeper and deeper into this dark hole. That was the first step, going into rehab. But after going to rehab, I then went to U-Turn, and that changed everything for me. U-Turn didn't just give me a shelter, they gave me structure, they gave me healing and belief. They listened, they heard me, they counseled, they gave me real tools to rebuild my life. And, from daily work training to emotional healing, they never gave up on me, and I'm very grateful for this. And I've been for 2 years. I live in a lovely living in that home, amongst other champions and other guys.
I see that the video has paused. Basically, he ends, there's only 30 seconds left, but he basically ends to say that he is now in a process that is actually helping him to meet his dreams going forwards. And we're going to hear another story in a minute where you'll hear that. That's actually online. I'll post the link to that on our website after the presentation. So as well as retail, as well as the Living Roots, and you saw that Alex was working very much in Living Roots there. We also have Connect Solutions. Now, Connect Solutions has been around for 15 years, and it's helping other nonprofits to do good better. And it's traditionally used the customer relationship management and also the M&E reporting software around Salesforce. And because nonprofit organizations get 10 free licenses, but out the box, Salesforce doesn't do very much. It needs to be customized and organized. And being a company 100% owned by U-Turn, it's supported 80 nonprofits across South Africa and others overseas in order to support them to also do better work and help our society in South Africa. But thanks to Jobs Fund a couple of years ago, we also said, well, what skills are needed in South Africa? And it was looking at coding development. And we had a staff member that said, can we actually help? That she really believed that, no, there are people who have been homeless that would make excellent coders. And other people are like, no, that's not possible. And she went, no, absolutely. Let's test it. Let's innovate. Let's trial it. And it's been really successful. And so we now have a learnership And we do website design and development. We're about to launch into social media marketing and support for small businesses and nonprofits. And that's been incredibly successful. But actually, I want for you to hear directly from Candice, who is sat next to me, who is going to just give a little bit of her story and explain, some of her journey. So, Candice, welcome.
Hey, John. Good morning, everybody.
So do you want to tell us a bit about your story and how you landed up at Connect Solutions?
So, my story started about 13 years ago, when I fell into a 12-year heroin addiction. My addiction started after my mother passed away. I was a very quiet child. I didn't speak much. And then after my mother passed away, I just withdrawn from everybody. Didn't speak about what I was going through or how I felt. And then I found what was missing in the heroin addiction. And at the time, I thought it was the best thing that happened to me. It became everything. It became my best friend. I didn't know who I was at the time, so that gave me purpose. And then 12 years later, I found myself in a very dark place, and a friend reached out, and I was so desperate that I hung on with both hands. And I went to rehab, and when I came out of rehab, I went to U-turn, and I started as a P2 in the rehab support process. And not long after that, I started the work readiness process. And in this time, I felt like something is moving in me. And at first it was like I was driven. This is what I was missing my whole life. And as time went on, I was working at the Paddle charity shop. And as time went on, that drive just like it got less and less and less. And I was going to the PDT site, that's the personal development day. And I was still a bit withdrawn because, like, I never spoke about my feelings, and I just need to speak. Everybody's speaking about feelings. And as time went on, they started working with me, but I still felt like something was missing. And then I moved from the Paddle store, and they put me at the Tigerberg warehouse. And my development process grew. I started believing in myself. I had that confidence again, but something was still missing, like career-wise. I didn't know what I felt like. Is this my life? Is this where I'm gonna end up, like in a job that I don't want to wake up to? And not long after that, I was working at the warehouse maybe for 2 months. And then I got the opportunity to join the coding workshop. And out of 6 of us, 3 of us were selected, and I was one of them. And at that time, something sparked, but like my confidence level still wasn't there. It's like, why me? And as time went by, they saw the people at Connect Solutions, and my counselor and my social worker, they saw something in me that I didn't see. And as time went on, I got to the learnership, and I built skills, technical skills, design skills. I worked hard on myself. I'm confident in what I do. And a year later, I am.
So what's it about the U-turn work program that makes it work for you, that you think has made you successful?
So, like I said, when I started working in the shops, like I felt like there was something sparked again. But the confidence, the self-esteem, the belief in myself wasn't there. So at U-turn, we get the chance once a week to go speak to a counselor, a social worker. We have group settings where we speak about recovery and skills. And I didn't get that at the rehab. So they gave me work skills and personal skills, and that's how I grew, and that's how I am sitting here confident in work skills. Coding, I didn't even know what coding was. And yeah, I can design a website.
And what are your plans for the future? What's coming up?
So, plans for the future. When I started the learnership, it's a year learnership, and there was an opportunity from the learnership. You can, if obviously if you work hard, you can get to the internship. And on Thursday,
Yeah.
Thursday. So I went for the interview for the internship, and on Monday I start my new position as the new junior web developer slash facilitator for the new learnership.
So you have a job, you're graduating from the program?
I am. Yeah, I am.
Great, congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's amazing, and that's just one story of many stories. We actually had 49 people graduate from the program just last year, and there are tens more in the process. So our impact. Over 90% of our graduates, now we measure 6 months after someone leaves, remain sober, employed, and now in formal housing. And in homelessness, you don't want to be in a temporary accommodation anymore. You want to be maintaining your job. Some people, it's not the same job, but they've actually managed to find a different job. And if it's addiction that led to you losing everything, actually maintaining your sobriety journey and your recovery journey is super important. So next slide, how has Jobs Fund the support of this? So before we ever received any support from Jobs Fund, we had 8 charity shops, and that's now grown to 20. We've launched Living Roots, a whole new business, which is going well, and there's added a different element to the program. And you heard from Candice saying retail wasn't her thing. So Living Roots is an option, and we've also added the coding learnership to Connect Solutions. Again, it's another sector and another load of skills that we're training to increase employability for our graduates. And then recently we started the coffee chain, going into the hospitality business, and that opens the door for other jobs. Next slide. But from the beneficiary perspective, look, we've changed the lives of more than 150 people experiencing homelessness who've actually gone through the different programs. And we've increased now the champion workspaces. Now, this is a sustainability. We had 60 spaces for someone to be training in 2022. We now have 175. And that's at any one time, there can be 175 people being trained, because the social enterprises provide the money for the stipend that people get. That provides a sustainability beyond the projects, and it can keep going and keep going. And so that's the power of this. So what are some principles for an effective work program with homeless people? There's just 3 things I want to very quickly touch on. So if you want to do something like this, you need to start with the end in mind. Don't forget the therapeutic process and give it the time needed. Don't just make it, 6 weeks or 2 months is enough. So next slide. So starting with the end in mind. Now, from the first moment you speak to and see an individual, you need to know when, where, and how you're going to be able to assist them. And only enroll them onto a program when you know where you want them to get to. And one of the most common things in homeless services, and one of the worst things, is starting someone on a process that is ultimately going to fail. And actually, because you're setting them up for failure. So by having a clear process, by building readiness for change. Now, I didn't touch on it much earlier, but the vouchers. The vouchers the My Change vouchers are a great way for us to test and to start building that motivation. And it's using work in a way that is taking away that entitlement. So members of the public can buy a My Change voucher and give it to someone who's begging at a robot or at their gate. The person can take that voucher and they can get a meal, clothing, safe sleeping space for the night, or a hot shower with a towel and soap and everything else. But if the person doesn't have a voucher, and we actually encourage, we said, don't go back out on the street and find a voucher. Come and work with us. Come and do something, some street cleaning, some community gardening. Do something meaningful to earn some vouchers. We know giving you money at this point is going to actually, if you're in addiction, it doesn't help your process. And homeless people have said the same. It's like, actually, it was the money that stopped me from taking that first step. But then people have gone, they've worked for 2 hours, they've earned 4 vouchers. That can give them a meal, an item of clothing, a shower, and a safe space bed for the night. But also, it's not just what they can get, it's that feeling of, I have earned this, and it's changed that mentality. And it's that building motivation for change around, okay, often people they're stuck, they're in pre-contemplation, they don't know change is possible. And it's going, no, you want to get knowing that change is possible, they can contemplate it, and then they can work, prepare, they can action, and they can maintain. And that's what the process does. So we're starting with the end in mind. And if you're 65, we're like, okay, work program is not going to work for you. So we need to look at a different model and a different process, etc. Secondly, don't forget the therapeutic process. So next slide. So as the stories have shown, one of the biggest benefits were the training and development days. And it was the opportunity to speak to a counsellor. It was having the hard and the soft skills. It was working with other people. And it's that bite-sized skills development and then the work experience. So you're training work that allows individuals to put this into practice. And it's using an interdisciplinary team that's so important in this therapeutic process. So it's social workers as caseworkers, but it's occupational therapists who run the recovery and skills groups, psychological counsellors who are helping people with traumatic experiences. It's work placement officers who are doing with the special skills with the CV and the job interviews. So it's an interdisciplinary team that is then helping giving people the skills that they need. And thirdly, it's giving the time needed to build resilience. So it's not time limited, it's person directed. So it's providing the person with what they need. And the work program, like many work programs, last between 2 and 6 weeks in South Africa. Ours lasts as long as the person needs. On average, that's about 18 months. We're trying to bring that down. But it's about the outcomes that matter most. And also, this is a long-term process. We're dealing with people they never have worked or have had a long time on the street and in experiences of trauma. So, and it doesn't stop at graduation. It's that aftercare and support that helps someone ongoingly. Next slide. Okay, so people often think, it's like, okay, the U-turn program, it's really expensive. And if you look at it, okay, the cost of setting up a social enterprise and this is the cost per job, the business that then pays the stipend, it's about 90,000 Rand per job. That's expensive for a jobs program. The training and therapy costs then about 3,500 Rand a month per person for 18 to 24 months. And then the transitional accommodation. So we provide some transitional, so out of the shelters, we provide group homes that people can live, sort of 12 to 14 people. They're paying a rental. They are helping with cook the food together. They are helping do the cleaning, etc. It's a stepping stone into your own place or back with family. There's a subsidy that goes to that. So costs per person, 210,000 Rand. That's a lot. Click on. But don't forget that the cost to society of the status quo we found in Cape Town was 445,000. So actually, it's less than half the cost of doing this intensive program compared to what this is costing society for someone just to be on the street. And that doesn't include the healthcare costs. It doesn't include all the antisocial costs and doesn't include all the other things. So it's looking at these programs and the return on investment in a slightly different way and not comparing it against a traditional work program, which is 2 to 6 weeks. This is intensive for 18 to 24 months. So what's the future? And I'm going to conclude with this. So the future plans for scaling, look, as I said at the beginning, we want to have an effective life change pathway that's accessible to every homeless person in South Africa. So we want to keep growing the social enterprises because that's the engine behind the work program in retail and hospitality and coding and horticulture. And we want to add an additional 300 workspaces in the next couple of years, adding workspaces in Pretoria, adding additional workspaces in Johannesburg, expanding to Stellenbosch, and then Durban, Bloemfontein, Liberia, Port Elizabeth. It's looking at different places and how we can work with partners in order to do that. And then we're actually realizing that we need to open a U-turn academy, because we don't have enough professionals in the sector that is actually that are trained to work in our different centres in our work programme, that in terms of how to effectively address homelessness. So we're in advanced conversation with WITS about how do we partner with you and actually get a formal training programme in place there. So last slide. Candice and Alex are just two of dozens of people who successfully graduated from the programme, and this is soon to be hundreds. And this is thanks in large part to Jobs Fund for helping us to really scale the programme aggressively over the last 3 to 4 years. And as I said, it was 60 people, it's now 175 at one time. And that's 50 to 75 people a year who are graduating from the programme. And we've got 2 people who went back to their places where they used to beg at the lights. And they actually sort of, for us, they said, no, we got one lady who said, I used to beg for help, but now I'm a sales consultant. And the guy said, I used to be a drug addict, but now I'm a life coach. And they are successfully employed and ongoingly. And that's just a great inspiration to others who are on the street, and for all of us who have something to do with this. Thank you very much.
Wow, thanks, John. Thanks very much. And Candice, you are inspiration to most of us, and we love you. We believe in you, that you will continue your journey. Now, as we move on to the second part of the presentation, this project is in a creative sector, which this project has crowded a number of players in the industry. This is where artists, designers, and storytellers are forging innovative ways to employment. Through immersive workshops, mentorships, programs, and community partnerships, this initiative has already connected dozens of creatives with the paid opportunities. It fosters both local talent and sustainable careers in the arts. This project will be represented by Monica Newton. Before Monica joined Grahamstown Foundation and National Arts Festival in January 2020, she served as the head of Gauteng Department of Sports, Arts, Culture and Recreation. There she was leading teams and implementing sporting and arts events in the province. She was building libraries and providing archiving and heritage services. Since taking office, Monica has worked with National Arts Festival team to deliver online festivals for the first time in the history of these major events in 2020, and to create ongoing digital platforms such as Fringe, and deliver annual programs of live events, including the Mandela Bay Arts Festival, the English Olympiad, and the annual National Arts Festival. Now, in its 51st year, the National Arts Festival is one of South Africa's oldest multidisciplinary arts festival, which is hosted in the Eastern Cape city of Makhanda. Well, Makhanda used to be known as Grahamstown. Over 25 partners collaborate in various ways to enable the festival that hosts hundreds of artists and thousands of audience members every year. It creates cultural, social, and economic value for the country. Monica holds Bachelor of Arts degree in Industrial Sociology, a Bachelor of Arts honors in Industrial Sociology, and a Master's in Sociology from the University of Witwatersrand. A warm welcome to Monica Newton.
Monica, you're muted.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining the session. Gosh, what an incredible opportunity to follow the extraordinary U-Turn project and to throw our hat into the ring of the Jobs Fund community. And I think it's such an important thing that is done here today, which is to introduce a wider audience to the work of the Jobs Fund, but also to make sure that those of us working in the Jobs Fund environment meet each other and are inspired by each other's work. So U-Turn is definitely a hard act to follow, but here we go on the Festival Enterprise Catalyst. And as Najwa mentioned in her opening remarks, the South African creative sector is really quite a powerhouse. We are large, we are dispersed. There are about 1 million of us that come to work every day. And we make up a very large cohort of artists, creatives, technicians in the core of the industry, but also a lot of us also work in other sectors. And these include a variety of advertising, tourism, sports and recreation. And we are very, very lucky to have an institution called the South African Cultural Observatory. And a shout out to Professor Jane Snowball, who's with us in the room, who's also been an incredible leading light in understanding the economic impact of culture and working with events like festivals to understand how we locate ourselves in the bigger economy. But we find ourselves on the world stage. We're not the largest contributor in terms of GDP, but we are pretty substantive. And using the UNESCO definition, because there is a very large and global movement to map and essentially calculate the value, artistic, cultural, social, and otherwise, of what culture does in an effort to make sure that it is recognized in policy terms, that it is supported. And it's quite an incredible opportunity for us to be working with the Jobs Fund in this way for the first time. So please, if you are interested in learning a bit more about the creative sector, please do pop into the South African Cultural Observatory. They do a lot of really, really interesting reports and ongoing webinars. It really is a fantastic space to learn and grow and understand our sector a bit more. Next slide, please. So when you look at our sector, factoring in sort of backward and forward kind of linkages, our total economic impact in 2020 was about 161 billion, which is just short of 3% of GDP. Obviously, the fundamental impact of COVID and the fact that our industry was shut down for almost entirely for 2 years cannot be underestimated. And again, our friends at the South African Cultural Observatory mapped that and told us in very graphic detail what some of those disastrous consequences were for creatives. Concerts SA was an organization who's part of the Festival Enterprise Catalyst, did a lot of research work as well, which began to point to how cataclysmic it was for musicians, musicians needing to sell instruments, choosing to leave the sector. And those are still the long-term impacts that our sector is recovering from. It truly was a very, very cataclysmic economic period for us. We lost a lot of artists and artistry to the pandemic, but equally the long tail of COVID is still hampering our recovery. We are a fairly substantive exporter as well, about just $316 million. And we tend to cluster. Because we are networked industries, and I'll get to that in a bit, we cluster together in metropoles, and we work together in very, very clear and interesting ways. It's almost impossible in the arts sector to do something on your own. You are pretty much always part of a bigger network or community. Some of those relationships will be formal, some of them will be informal, but when we look at them, they are growing and they grow quite quickly. SMMEs drive our economy, and we very much rely on face-to-face interaction. The digital explorations that we did in the 2020, 2021, and half of 2022 were kind of interesting, but what they really did reveal to us was that the digital world is an avenue of revenue generation and employment, but it is not a replica for live work. And that's very much where the partners of the Festival Enterprise Catalyst find ourselves. We are festivals, we promote concerts and live tours. We are people that work very much in the live domain. We maintain an interest in the digital domain, but we promote and support live work because that's very much where the employment opportunities are, which is in project-based work. We were the original gig workers. Before there was Uber, before there was Airbnb, there was the cultural sector. Project-based work is pretty much what determines our livelihoods and our ability to generate an income. And local and international tourism markets are very key to our growth, but equally the domestic support that we receive as we generate audiences with the work that we do, absolutely fundamental as well. Next slide, please. So when we look at the Festival Enterprise Catalyst, it's a big partnership of the National Arts Festival, Woordfees, Art Club, Suid-Oosterfees, and KAK&K under the auspices of the Nasionale Afrikaans Theater Initiatief, NATI, the Tribio Fund, and of course Concerts SA, which is a project that supports live music tours and live music venues. It's a matched funded project, and this is our first foray. We've just had a year under our belt, so compared to John, we're kind of newbies in the world of the Jobs Fund. And we've basically raised 50% of the capital of a 20 million rand project, and the Jobs Fund has matched that. And we are producing substantive economic gains. And our project is testing the model of creating more sustained employment through the creation of new work that is presented, whether it's a music tour or it's a production that we present on our festival stages, and very critically, touring that work. The most important thing for creatives is the ability to maximize the income generating opportunities that they have through consecutive gigs. And that's really what the Festival Enterprise Catalyst is trying to do. We have worked together in a variety of ways for decades. The Afrikaans festivals in particular have a very well-established model of cooperating. But the Festival Enterprise Catalyst sees us for the first time working in a very considered and concerted way, as John mentioned, with the end in mind, to create a new kind of impact in our sector by creating new work, by supporting existing works that tour, by enhancing the sustainability of funded technical and artistic enterprises through training and networking. We're hoping to create much more sustainable employment, much more sustainable income generation, and ultimately much more sustainable enterprises at the end of it. Next slide, please. So these very complex images are just a snapshot of actually how complex our industry is. We are an ecosystem. We are highly, highly networked. At its center, though, is creative talent. Talent that works in a variety of different sectors: fashion, music, theater, dance. But more and more, we're seeing creatives move very evenly and freely across these different disciplines, learning multiple skills along the way. So it's very important not to see us as a singular linear value chain, but actually a far more complex relationship of opportunities and income generation, much like the world of essentially a networked structure. So the images in the top right-hand corner speak to what we're trying to do with the Enterprise Catalyst, is that where we've worked before is in highly centralized networks, in other words, festivals or tours creating specific opportunities, but the opportunities actually being concentrated in a singular place. Where we work in co-productions, we see a slightly more decentralized model where work does move, but you still have very profound nodal points. What we're actually trying to do is create a far more distributed network where, in essence, identified stakeholders, work, tours, people are able to move through a network far more clearly. Because actually what we're trying to do is make the relationship between reward and work far clearer. Because in our world, people don't go to work and necessarily get an income directly from it. So you create a play, but in order for that play to generate an income for you, you have to get it produced and you have to get it performed. So the relationship between the work that an artistic or creative person does and the actual money at the end of the day can sometimes be a very circular, circuitous, and not exactly linear route. And what we're trying to do at the heart of it is make that relationship far clearer and make the long tail of that work and reward stretch throughout a specific period. Next slide, please. So what you see is a network of festivals, and we happen at specific times during the year. And Concerts SA, which runs throughout the year, working together to make sure that as far as possible, where we create new works, those tour, and when works are touring, they tour as much as possible. And what we really are starting to see, a lot driven through the Concerts SA program, which supports a range of different stakeholders in the music sector with micro grants that essentially see music touring across the country or in specific regions or regionally, so in other words, out of the country, but into the SADC region. We're seeing a lot of impact of works that are being created and presented at one festival new and then touring to other festivals. For example, works that were presented for the first time at Car, traveled to St. Oosterfees in the next little while, then came to the National Arts Festival and will then travel on to Woordfees and Artklop, which happens throughout the year. So you can see that if we think about ourselves as a circuit, not as individual pieces, each doing our own thing, but actually relate to each other in an ecosystem, we start to see a far more networked industry arise. So far, in our first year, we've supported 62 music tours, which had within them 114 gigs nationally and regionally. We've invested in 5 new works and 4 touring works at Artklop 2025, Car 2025, and the National Arts Festival 2025. We still have Woordfees and Artklop 2025 coming up. Put them in your calendars. They're still coming up in Stellenbosch and Potchefstroom. And the Concerts SA program has just concluded its second year call, and there are 50 works that will be coming to a venue near you. They have a fantastic gig guide online. Please do check it out and support these incredible artists as they come to your city or close to you, or they appear at a festival near you. We aim to create 340 short-term jobs over 2 years. To date, we've created 243 in our first year. And some of those jobs are artistic with actual cast members or band members. Some of them are actually technical in the lighting, sound, and stage staff that work to present any kind of live production. Some of them are far more involved in management, marketing. Some of them are actually event staff, front of house, ticketing, restaurant staff, and those guys. So you can begin to see how one production or one tour will actually be quite sticky and create a whole range of jobs in a whole range of different kinds of sectors as it goes. We aim to provide training for 68 beneficiaries through online and personal training, and so far we have upskilled 242. Some of them have been webinars on things like crowdfunding, for example. Some of them have been stage management and stagecraft at Artscape, as we did this last quarter. So we're really trying to design a program that meets creatives and artists and technicians where they are, develop their skills and capacity to be far more effective participants in the sector, and very critically plug into the networks that drive our sector. You're only as good as your last project, and you only have a job when you can secure your next project. So when we talk about the hustle, artists are the original hustlers, and we're unbelievably creative at it. Next slide, please. So We have some testimonials, and this is obviously a very small group of folks. Some young people that have been involved in some of our most recent productions. We have Buhle Ngaba, who's an actor in Bridling that was with us at the National Arts Festival and will travel to Woordfees. We have Christo Davids, who is the director of a very exciting new presentation of Boesman and Lena, the Athol Fugard work that will be traveling to Woordfees, that will be premiering at Woordfees and traveling to Art Club. And then Melissa de Vries, who was in a production called Kompon that premiered at Zuid-Oosterfees and joined us at the National Arts Festival this year and will travel on to other festivals. So let's hear from some of our beneficiaries. Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Buhle Ngaba and I'm the actor performing in a production called Bridling that in partnership with the FEC we will be opening in a few weeks at National Arts Festival. It is such a privilege to be performing this work that's been written by Nadia Davids and has been turned into a play with an incredible team led by the wonderful Jay Pather. To be doing all of this with the other performers, Sean Ulf, has been truly a dream come true. The work is fierce, it's tender, it's very challenging. We're still in a rehearsal process, but yeah, it's just really incredible to be involved in all of it. I'm very excited to be performing at the National Arts Festival because in many ways I grew up there. I went to university in Makanda, so to be returning in this way with this production is very special. See you all at the theatre.
Hallo, my naam is Christo Davids en ek is betrokke by die produksie Boesman en Lena deur Athol Fugard. Dit is eerstens vir my 'n groot voorreg om deel te wees van hierdie geselskap. Om die regisseur van hierdie produksie te wees is seker die grootste eer wat my al te beurt gekom het. Daarvoor is ek baie dankbaar. Ek is spesifiek dankbaar vir die uitmuntende rolverdeling wat deel is van hierdie produksie en die briljante tegniese span wat agter hierdie produksie staan. Ons sien baie uit om hierdie produksie na die Art Club Kunstefees en die Woordfees te neem en ook om hierdie produksie te deel met 'n jonger gehoor. Boesman en Lena was geskryf in 1969. So ons is baie opgewonde om hierdie produksie na 'n jonger gehoor te bring, na 'n nuwe gehoor te bring en hulle reaksie en liefde vir Athol Fugard se werk en teater as sulks te kwyt. Baie dankie.
Hey there, my name is Melissa de Vries. I am an actress and I am so honored to be part of the production called Kompon, which was funded by the FEC, so huge shout out to you guys. This book was written by Ronelda Kamfer and it was adapted by Jolyn Phillips for this production and directed by Leanne van Rooy. It's a huge honor to be part of this production, first of all. I do think it's lovely to be able to do something that you love doing, because it's something that I love doing. I do think it definitely had an effect on me as a human, speaking about these topics in the book. It's about family trauma, and I think it's so relatable. So I do think that I found healing through this experience. And then as an artist as well, you learn that you are the vessel. Yeah, it definitely grew me as an artist as well. And you know what's even cooler is that we get to play at different festivals, we get to interact with different audience members, and hopefully we get to touch people's lives in different spaces. And at the same time, as an artist, you learn to adapt, you learn to be open. So yeah, I am excited for the journey ahead, and I do hope that we get to play at different festivals and more festivals, and hoping that we will reach more people, because I do think that there's healing through this work, and hoping that we touch more people's lives. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And just a call back to Candice and how important it is to find meaning in the work that you do. And I think these testimonials from our extraordinary young cast members really do have a very clear resonance for them. They believe in the work, they love the work, they love what they do, and it's an unbelievable privilege to have the opportunity to support them in their dreams and to introduce them to generations of audiences who are going to love them for decades to come. In year 2, we're going to be scaling up our jobs and training impact with a focus on, as I mentioned, the additional 50 music tours and an estimated 100 concerts across the country. And some of them will also be going to our regional partners as well. So keep an eye out if you have friends, colleagues, and families in Eswatini and other places, because there might well be an incredible tour of South African music coming to you. We'll be investing in at least 6 new works and 8 touring works over the next 12 months at upcoming festivals, because we've got another year of our project to go. So there's another full cycle of festivals coming up. We'll be conducting more stage management and training and technical training at festivals, as well as hosting webinars on a range of topics, including some very, very topical issues that are close to our heart, like the impact of artificial intelligence on the creative sector and the extent to which we are adapting to these changes. Our sector is very, very prone to impact from technological advances, both good and bad. We are the canary in the coal mine. If something is going to change, it's going to hit us first. It was true of those of you who remember Napster as a music sharing service. Music felt it first. It completely shifted value chains, power dynamics, and how artists make and create and make money from music. And so AI has very, very real prospects of both growth and harm to the creative sector. And there's a lot of work that's being done by SACO and other institutions on this. We're also going to be launching the Tribio Content Portal, which will host a whole range of content and also provide some interesting work to content creators like writers and those kinds of folks who are critical to our industry. Their work is sometimes a bit hidden. And certainly we're seeing these spaces decline for people who think and write about our industry and our work. So we're very keen to embrace these elements of our sector and bring them into the fold of the Festival Enterprise Catalyst program. Next slide, please. And lastly, just some contact details. We have a whole range of social media platforms and things, and also we are absolutely available. And we are brand new to the Jobs Fund world. We're still learning, and I think our team at the Jobs Fund has done an incredible job at listening and understanding some of our complexities. For example, employment contracts are not something that our sector is very familiar with. And so that's been a learning experience for both of us, but we've found ways through our complexities. We have another full year to really work to embed the model, to engage with it more, to see what works and to see what doesn't work. And we're really excited to come and talk to you again, perhaps when a year is under our belt, and talk a bit more about the impact that we've had. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Wow, thank you, Monica. You are one of the lucky people to work with so much talent and touch so many people through the arts. Now, although these two interventions focus on very different challenges, one model in arts, the other in social services, they share a powerful through line. They empower people with dignity, purpose, and a steady income. Together, they remind us that unemployment is not just an economic issue, but it is a human one. And that innovative solutions can bloom in every corner of our community. Now, as we move to the Q&A session, you are now allowed to raise your hand and put the question, any question that you want to put to any of the speakers of today. I've seen that a lot of people have been asking about the recording of today's session. Look at the responses there. The links have been posted there. Maybe just as a start, John, you mentioned that 445,000 if we do not intervene to a homeless individual. How did you get to that figure? What is included there?
Thank you for your question, Lionel. So what was included there? There was we'll put the link to the cost of homelessness study in the chat, which will help to it's all unpacked there in terms of it in the study. But basically what was included was the cost of donations to homeless people. So we asked people, how much do you on average receive, or actually we asked them how much did you spend over the last 3 days? And we took an average there, and that's where we found out, okay, some people are getting nothing and spending nothing. Some people are actually getting 200 Rand, and the average was 78 Rand. We looked a lot at, use of government services. So, for example, actually, we found that 1 in 3 people had spent time, at least overnight, had been arrested and spent over time in a cell. A lot of people had spent time in prison, often for drug possession. And there's a high drug use among homeless people. And the correctional services cost was very high. We asked the improvement districts, the SIDS, and the City of Cape Town, okay, how much are you spending on cleaning? Due to homelessness? How much are you spending on law enforcement? How much? And so we had all of these things also included. So it's kind of just reacting to the problem. And then finally, we had in the developmental bucket, we said, okay, how much is the City of Cape Town spending on homeless services, and all the different service providers, how much are you spending per year? And then we took out any overlap. So that was basically, we looked at government, individual and business support for non-profits, and in terms of the sector. So those are the main areas we looked at. The big ones we didn't look at were health. So we really struggled actually to find the healthcare costs. Now, you talk to anyone who works in the emergency care on a wet winter night, and they'll tell you, and you also talk to lots of homeless guys, they say, yeah, like, if it's a really wet night, we will go and spend the night in a hospital because it's cheaper. But there's also violent crime on the street. It's not cheaper. It's warm and it's dry, but there's violent crime on the street. In terms of impact to health, there's very high levels of TB among the homeless population. Hepatitis, also HIV was quite high, higher than the local prevalence. So, but those things weren't included in terms of that impact. In terms of the high levels of gender-based violence, all of that wasn't included. Though they do have costings there, because we couldn't get something that was reliable enough. So look at the report, and you'll see what is included. This is a 2020 figure just before COVID. We think it's probably higher now. We'd love to do the same for Johannesburg, Pretoria, for other cities. That was just the Cape Town setting.
Thanks, John. I look forward to reading that report. We have a question from Jennifer van Papendal. Jennifer, the floor is yours. Jennifer, you are muted. Okay, whilst we are waiting for Jennifer, John, there was also a question that kept on lingering in my head, that one would assume that most of the individuals that are homeless might have criminal records. Is it easy for them to get employment, since we know there are criminal checks that are done, etc.?
So for some people, yes, it's definitely something that lands up with them being on the program for a bit longer. For other people, it's interesting working with employers. You land up finding out that, so an employer wants to know the background to the person, and when you're just doing an interview, you don't always know the history and the background. And actually, knowing someone's come through U-turn, it doesn't actually put people off. It's like, okay, we know the situation, we know there's some support there if needed, and they're very happy. We also help people because after 10 years for minor crimes, your record can be expunged. So we do help people where possible to do that. So it isn't a barrier. But for the times where there's been sort of severe violent crime, etc., that has been harder. But it hasn't stopped anyone getting work. It's just taken a bit longer.
Okay, thanks. I see Jennifer's mic is now unmuted.
Hi, thank you so much. So I'm from Sabondaba Dance, and we do a lot of work where we try to take performances to people wherever they are, and then we usually have a big work that we do once a year, and a full scale work, and it's actually quite wasteful to just do something at Artscape, for instance, or with the Back to Theatre, and not to be able to take it around. And we have been applying every year to KAKA and KA and to NAF, and we don't seem to get any support there. And I'm just wondering whether it's possible to be mentored with our proposals and to maybe get some feedback as to why we are not being successful in our applications.
Monica, maybe you're the ideal one for this.
Sure. Thanks so much for reaching out, Jennifer. Yeah, the curated program application processes for festivals are highly competitive, and the Enterprise Catalyst process actually works through those calls, working with the artistic directors. So my Eldon very kindly put my contact details in the chat, so please do pop us an email. We can go back through and we can have a look-see. Sometimes it's about cost, sometimes it's about cast size. What you'll find, all artistic directors at the moment are very sensitive to the changes in audiences. The National Arts Festival, for example, we're seeing a much younger urban-based audience joining us, and this has been a trend over the last couple of years. So the festival is almost going back 30 years as it begins to create new young professional audiences that will stay with us until they are retirees. But it's one of the things that we're all adapting to at the moment. So please drop us a mail and we'll have a look-see and we'll get in touch with you.
Thank you so much. We'll do that.
Thanks. Monica, there was a question earlier on the chat on the AI where it seemed like the individual who raised it wanted you to expand more on the risks of AI to the talent industry.
Sure. It's an unbelievably topical issue at the moment, and it is something that is hotly debated and contested. There are some who definitely feel that it's going to bring new kinds of efficiencies and new ways of doing work. So there's some folks who see it as a tool, but there certainly is a risk, as with any of these huge, large-scale generative technologies, that, for example, what happens when a TV station decides that they no longer want to commission scripts, they're just going to ask AI to write them. Now, the quality of what you're going to see on screen is going to be pretty grim, but it will save money. And so it will serve a particular kind of bottom line. There are also very, very profound intellectual property questions about the extent to which AI is doing something called scraping, which is collecting data from online sources that are not particularly well protected. There are a lot of very, very interesting cases in the US at the moment, for example, where Reddit is taking on OpenAI about data scraping of their chat boards, which is one of the largest repositories of information and text on the internet, and the extent to which there is intellectual property attached to that. There's also quite a lot of concern about the extent to which artists at the early stages of AI with not a lot of information might have given permission for the use of their avatar or their image or their voice in particular ways and not be able to control how that's used. And that's been something that the visual arts sector, for example, has been fighting for years, and the extent to which attributed images are not actually recognized and paid for is something that our sector has battled with, and AI is going to exacerbate some of that. So it is a growing field. Unfortunately, our policy environment is not particularly limber. It takes a very long time in South Africa to get regulation and especially intellectual property. I was a very junior civil servant in the 1990s when the Copyright Amendment Act started. The process started, and we still actually don't have an amended Copyright Act. So these things take a lot of time, and unfortunately will leave industries like ours very vulnerable. So it's really important that we do a lot of education work with our sector. I think there's no question that AI is a force that none of us can necessarily resist, but we absolutely have to manage it, and it has very deep ethical considerations for our sector. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me go to my colleague, Tembiso, Mr. Nkuna.
Yes, sir. And yeah, incredible presentations from both parties. So my question is to you, Ten. So this is around the blend academy. So in terms of understanding the types of activities that would be conducted within that academy, and also looking at the accessibility of the academy, will this be more like a fixed location, or will it be branched to provinces, especially through the crisis, with an understanding that dealing with homelessness is actually a national problem, as John has indicated. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much, Tembiso. So the planned academy, what we're looking at the moment is it will be ultimately be a course, could be a postgraduate diploma. We're still in discussions with VITS around this, but the idea is that it's qualifications that you can take as a standalone. That will be done could be done by distance learning. So it could be accessible to anyone in South Africa. And so that's the idea behind it. In terms of the activities, it's the key things that need to happen now is it's not just okay, we see the gap, we notice the need. It's then actually it's the curriculum development, it's the process for actually putting the courses together. It's working out what fits within the SAQA framework, and then getting all of that approved and formalized through the university processes. So it's a project that it's not part of the Jobs Fund project. This current one that ends next March. It's a kind of a forward thinking kind of in the next 3 years, can we get to this? Because I see it's a big gap. But I mentioned it because of the kind of the training element and the kind of growing like the growing people in order to serve people within South Africa. So that's just a very brief overview, but I can't say too much at the moment because it's still in initial stages of conversation.
Thanks, John. Monica, there's a question for you from Modise. The question is, those 200 plus jobs created in the creative industry, are these permanent or temporary? Or even seasonal?
Thank you so much, Maud, for your question, and thank you, Lionel, for throwing it over. These are short-term jobs. We have a very small number of kind of longer-term jobs, which are mainly in the project team itself. Our sector is very much characterized by short-term employment opportunities. Some of these will be a couple of months, some of these will be much longer, but on the whole, short-term jobs. Thanks so much, Maud.
Okay. Thank you very much. I don't think I've missed a question on the chat. Tembiso, can you confirm that?
Confirmed, Lionel.
Thank you. This is the moment then where I hand over to the head of Jobs Fund, the Deputy Director General for Employment Facilitation, to send us home or back to our working stations. Thank you.
Thank you, Lionel, and well done, Lionel, for holding this space. And thank you to John and to Monica for amazing presentations. You know, I sit here and I think about appropriate words to describe the experience that we've had here this morning, because it is an experience. You know, and something that is playing back for me all the time as I listen to John, to Monica, and to some of the people, the community members who have participated in these programs. And it leaves me with a sense of that the work we are doing is intentional, and its purpose is really, for me, it is summed up by saying, leave no South African behind. So often we are attracted to programs that can provide immediate scale. But at the Jobs Fund, we also say it's important to find innovative, sustainable solutions and alternative pathways, one person at a time. And if you take anything away from this sharing, the selfless sharing this morning, it's that this work is high touch. There's no one size fits all. It talks about if you want to have and build sustainability into your programs, then you must meet the individual where they are. And this is an important lesson for us as we allocate public funds, donors, and whoever's in the space of providing and supporting funding, right? Often the funding lasts for a really short period of time. John says we are available for as long as the need exists. And there are many other programs in the Jobs Fund who operate in that way. If you are going to build solid foundations, if we are going to make sure that we give back dignity to our people, then we must be in it for the long ride. And so this morning, I want to again say thank you so much to our presenters who have shared, because I leave this session inspired and touched at a heart level, because this is what this work is all about. This is how we give back dignity to all South Africans and others. This is how we innovate. This is how we are able to say, this. It's not just about scale. It's not just about being able to report 1,000,000 jobs have been created. That million is important in the context of the high levels of unemployment in our country. But this morning has shown us that there are alternatives, there is innovation, there is work around sustainability, and that if we build resilience in our country and we really and truly want to address the problem and the challenges around unemployment, then we must meet our people at the place at which they currently find themselves, and then help them navigate the alternative possible pathways that might be open to them. So thank you again to the presenters. Thank you to Lionel. Thank you to my Jobs Fund team for once again doing really well and kind of, just exceeding my expectations. To all of you, enjoy the rest of your day. And may you enter that with intent and purpose. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much to H3 that was on stage just a moment ago. Fantastic band. Now I'd like to welcome the Tandi Nduli Trio.